Hi guys, we're going to look at continuing from our last lesson where we looked at producing isometric objects, which in most cases is going to act as your base for your lamp. So today's lesson, you're going to focus on producing a base isometrically for your design. So you're going to draw your lamp out isometrically. Okay, so this is one example that I've done, and what I'm going to go through now is another example, so just to help you along the way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a sort of base point, or let's call it horizon line on the page. Okay. What I'm also going to do, and this will make more sense later on, is I'm going to gradually go up and lightly draw a few others. Okay, this will become very sort of clear and apparent why I'm doing it later on, but I just want to do a few now so they're on the page, so I don't need to worry about it later. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do, we need to draw our base for our design. Okay, so as with anything isometric, we are going to draw a vertical line to begin with. I'm going to go up to that top point now, and we're going to use making sure this line is on top of our baseline, and we're going to come across it, and I'm going to do the same at the bottom. You notice what I've done this time, I've gone for a portrait orientation rather than a landscape, just so we've got the height on our piece of paper for our design, because we're only really focusing on one thing now. Okay, so this might take a bit of time and patience, especially when you think about your base. Okay, I want you to try and make it as close to resembling your design as possible. So that is that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to section it off, so I've got my base that I'm going to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it here, and I'm going to position it over here. Okay, so this is a base that I'm going to be working with. So now I'm going to use this line because it's going to be easier for me to draw an isometric line from the top, so that I'm not having to go off the page at the bottom to get that line at 30 degrees. Okay, so this is why it's going to make life a bit easier for us, so we can just pick the lines on the page to draw our isometric lines. Okay, again, we need to make sure this is done with light lines, because with this drawing we are going to be removing quite a few lines. Okay, so that is our shape that I'm going to be working with. The next stage that I'm going to do, I'm going to look at making a hexagon. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at dividing this now. So that is around 50, so I'm going to go 25 here and 25 there roughly. Okay, so I've got the edge points, and then, not with any real degree of accuracy, I was going to create two lines on the side, one there and one at the top there, and again on this side, we're going to go there and there. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure those are lining up. You can see here I'm using a mix of just a normal ruler and sort of the adapted Easy Sketch. One reason, because some of the dimensions on this are sort of more visible, and it actually does have physical dimensions, so there's less working out and in effect a bit less thinking, because I can just know what I'm working with, but there's no issue with using this that has been sent to you. So what I'm going to do now, what I need to do, there's a line that I've missed, which is going to be helpful, is I need to show this hidden line at the bottom. Just going to bring that there. And now I'm going to bring these lines down to the base, so we've actually got a height of the right shape, okay? So I'm going to bring this line down to here. I'm going to bring this one down as well. Same for this one. So we're getting our hexagonal shape. And again, I'm not doing anything now in terms of rubbing out lines. I'm not doing anything in terms of fine lining, because there's still a long way to go in terms of what we need to do. Okay, so there now is my shape. Okay, we've got our base sorted, and now the main thing we need to worry about is where our wooden piece is going to sit in the middle. So we need to bring that up the page now. So the first thing, we need to plot our square in the middle here. So again, if we're using our sketching tool, we are going to draw a square roughly for where we want things to go. Again, I'm not putting too much detail in the measurement here. I'm just going for what I think is going to look right and making sure it's roughly in proportion. And again here. And I'm going to go the other way to get our square within the middle of this hexagon, okay? So that's what we've got at the minute. So this is where my central piece is going to be. So you can really see that all this back bit is going to be gone eventually, because when this is brought up, it's not going to be visible. So the main thing I need to do now is I need to create the main section in the middle. So I'm going to use this line here, position my ruler, and I'm going to draw a vertical line up. 1, 2, and final one, 3. You can see I've elongated the ones on the outside, because let's remember, these lines are going to come up at 30 degrees, so it's easier to make them slightly longer, so then they're ready pretty much to connect once we've lined everything up there. So there's one, flip the ruler around, there's 2, and I'm going to bring the other one across at the top. And we're going to do the same on this side as well. So we're creating our wooden frame where the light is going to come out from. So there's our shape there. The one thing that we need to include for this as well, I want you to get in the habit, so it isn't one solid block, okay? So remember, we're using 4 separate panels. So I want us to be able to replicate this on this design. So on the top section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw, or is going to sketch, sorry, very lightly a perpendicular line here. I'm going to do the same on the other side. And I'm going to do the same at the top, because remember, we've got 4 panels, so we need to show the thickness of all the materials and where they are. And finally, let's see. The one thing I can add now is at this point here, I can show it actually going in to show there's depth here. So I'm going to take that point and I'm going to take it to the top panel there. So at the minute, I've nearly done in terms of what I'm trying to set out to do. The one thing that is now remaining. So you can see now these two panels are coming here. So that line is not going to stop there, and neither is that. So what we need to do is join these lines down to the bottom here, because that's going to truly reflect the panels. And it helps if I get this ruler the right way around, because then it helped me draw a better line. So I'm going to line that up there, and I'm going to draw it all the way down to the bottom. And again, I'm going to be lining up there and drawing down to the bottom. So the main thing for me now is I need to go around with a fine liner and make sure that I'm keeping the lines that I need to allow me to progress with this. So I'm going to start off with a base, just carefully going around. It's going to be crisper using a ruler, just so we're not getting that staggered approach when we are drawing our lines, because there's nothing worse than a bit of a wavy line. I know in some cases, if you are using a circle or a cylinder, you're going to have to, because you can't really use a ruler for that. But try in all instances to be able to use a ruler to get these straight lines. So you can see now it's starting to appear, okay, as this shape. I would talk and explain about things, but there's not really much else I can explain when I'm fine lining. There's not too much to add. So as long as we're being careful, we're not smudging anything, and we're getting our outline of the shape that we desire. Okay, so I'm going to go across on the top. So obviously with these light lines, it's going to make them easier to rub out. So that's the worst thing when you're drawing, is to have any lines which are or have been drawn too hard, because you're not going to be able to get rid of them. Or you're going to be rubbing on the page with a rubber too hard that you might actually rip the paper, okay? So here, is my design. Last one. Like so there is what we're going to work with, and we can rub out everything that we no longer need. So I see all these lines here, irrelevant, but helped in terms of us building up our design.